Hi, everyone. Welcome to Creators to Creators. Today we have a special guest. His name is
Kofi Boakye.
Beautiful, beautiful. I got the first part right. I was like, I'm not sure how to say.
I know actually the spelling of my last name, the KY phonetically is actually CH.
Ah,
So you go Boakye, as in like say Chicago, for instance. That's
okay.
in Chicago. Yeah. So I know it's
And
kind of what how it's spelled is not how it's pronounced. So
I see. Yeah, it's like Meosha, and they
yes,
like Moesha or Mishi.
yes,
I'm like close.
not quite.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So you're an actor, you're a director. I mean,
Yeah.
you have such a amazing body of work. I looked at
Thank you.
your IMDb. Gosh, you're working, and I love what you're
Um,
doing. Is you're pushing the voices forward, like you said in your bio.
yeah,
You want to tell stories, particularly African stories, but not the stereotypical ones of like,
absolutely.
and I totally am so for that. So I was like, yes. It's
Yeah, actually,
beautiful.
that's actually one of the reasons why I was actually connected to you because uh, the diaspora story is varied. We're
Yes.
not a monolithic sort of creators. We
Yeah.
so many ideas that storytellers can bring to the table. Um, I mean, it's great that we've had certain, trailblazers. We talk about Spike, we talk about, up and coming now, quote unquote, black directors. We've
Yeah.
told, themed and historic events in storytelling. But man, you already know we are so our interest and our curiosity is so varied.
Yes.
And yeah, I think we're in a right time to be able to
Yes.
discuss different ideas, tell different stories that
Yes.
haven't been told. Yeah. So it's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time because everyone's home, and even though yes, the situation with the coronavirus is happening, but the fact that us as creators, we can still create. That's the beautiful thing that we can do.
Absolutely.
And I've been seeing a lot of that. I even on Netflix, I've been seeing stories like a lot of content on Netflix. Like Netflix has stuff now. There's
I know.
everyone's creating, everyone's home. Like I seen something called You're Excellent. I think that's an African film that's on Netflix, and I think I've
Hmm.
seen Seriously Single. It's another one. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, it's like great. It's so good.
I'm so
We need that.
excited. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
film, we're talking about 1909, apparently, when it, initially, well, it goes a little bit late 1800s, but in terms of storytelling and the variety of
Yes.
ideas, we are just starting in terms of, I put in quotation marks because it shouldn't be this late, but well, we're here now.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, I have ideas, and
Yeah.
it's nowhere near a typical black story. And what you're doing absolutely says the same thing. So it's
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you.
Yeah,
And it's a beautiful thing to see that, like, and like that we're not telling the stereotypical stories. Because honestly, I mean, I've seen it all. We've done
yeah,
it. We've been
yeah,
there. We've done that.
yeah,
And I think that there are. It's hope. There's hope because I've seen a lot of, us. We're creating stories to push the narratives forward, I believe.
absolutely.
And being that with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and
Right.
everyone's marching, I think this is the best time right now to get on like board with like as far as like creating projects and getting our voices heard. I mean, you have Jordan Peele putting
Yes.
out a Lovecraft
Right.
Country, which was brilliant.
Shaka King
Ah,
with
man,
what is it, Judas and the Messiah, with the
yes,
whole current story about Fred Hampton. I mean, wonderful. Well, of course, we're talking about
yes, yes,
Coogler. I actually have, elevated and opened more, or softened the hard places where people are
Yes.
more receptive to it.
Yes.
That's the only thing. This is nothing new what we're doing.
Right.
Just that people were not ready or
Right.
not willing
Yes.
or were short-sighted or limitations in their imagination.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've gone through a cyclical. I've been in the game quite a bit. I started off as an actor, but I noticed like there was a cyclical, like in the 90s, you
Yeah.
had a whole resurgence of, you know, like creativity, and then it died for a little bit. And this time around, we want to make sure it's sustainable,
Hmm.
it's trackable. I mean, we are in a capitalistic industry, so the numbers are showing.
Yes, it is indeed.
Oh,
I can talk about this all day, but let's talk about you because you're amazing. Tell us, how did you get your start, and why acting, and why directing? What pushed you in that direction?
I actually, I'm one of those type of artists that have always been an artist. I was
Yeah.
a kid. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and a neighbor. I was a great imitator, right? And
Yeah.
a neighbor one day gathered all the kids, my friends, everybody, and then they would say, "Hey, let's have a dance competition. Here's like $5. Whoever wins gets the $5." Well, I participated and I won.
Nice.
And that somehow the neighbors say, hey, they have these competitions that is much more, the prizes are much bigger than the $5. So if you want to do it, so I somehow got involved in these traveling dancers in Ghana.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, and so that was my first exposure to being a performer.
And you're
So
like, I love this.
actually, there was nothing else to do for me.
Yeah.
I knew I was an artist.
Yeah.
Somehow, I always innately knew I was an artist. So there was no other way. It's been my life, right?
That.
So then I started researching it after traveling with a group. Won all sorts of awards. We became kind of popular in Ghana.
Nice.
Then the next level was my family was like, so what are you going to do? Because we don't, what is this art business, right? African families were not easily, until recently, but when I started, there wasn't, art was innately, I mean, like everywhere I go in Ghana when I was growing up, there were wood carvers, like when you're going to like downtown, along the roads, there are carvers who would take you pass in the morning, you'll have a block of wood,
Nice.
right? It's like a stump of, like that. In the evening, as you're coming back, you see a whole carved out art that they're selling. And
Okay.
they have carved it out. It's all, now you see it's a head or a
Oh, wow.
figure of a woman, or so yeah. So there's a bunch of them, and so art was everywhere, but it wasn't respected, or
Interesting.
it didn't. There wasn't a financial or career attached to it. It
Got it.
was a traditional art. It's everywhere. I mean, like
Yeah.
Africans are artists by nature, so it's everywhere, and so
Yeah.
it's not as valued. It wasn't then. So they're like, what are you gonna do? I said, well, I think I want to go and study abroad in
Love
dance,
that.
right? So I started doing the research, and I found out that dancers' lifespan uh, besieged with injuries, and there wasn't the financial. I'm sorry, I gotta say this. The financial gain wasn't as prominent, or
Yeah.
as at least from an African kid's perspective, right?
Right.
But the next thing that Ghanaians or West Africans were exposed to were imported Indian films,
Mm.
Bollywood films, and
Yes.
also karate films.
Oh, wow.
And I went to the theater and I fell in love and I lived in the theater. I
Love
would
that.
go and see a matinee. Sometimes I even skip school. I was that crazy. So then I was like, I had to choose between dance or being an actor. And once I started doing the research on being an actor, that was more plausible. That was more
Yeah.
plausible. So initially, I went to London for 4 years, studied there for a little bit, but I knew that the opportunities were much better in the US.
Yeah.
So eventually, I made my way here, and also still doing my research. I just didn't want to be. I didn't want to be a movie star. I
Mhm.
wanted to be a real journey craftsman actor.
I
And
see.
all the research that I did was some of the bests from De Niro to Pacino to Denzel. They were all theater minded.
Yeah.
And they all advocated for if you wanted to be a real actor and you wanted to have the longevity,
Yeah.
then it's imperative, as the old school of apprenticeship and craftsmanship was, you studied, you mastered what the craft that you've determined for yourself. So yeah, so I moved to New York and just got into theater. So I did a lot of Broadway, off of Broadway stuff. I did experimental theater,
I love.
avant-garde theater, you name it. So like 15
Wow.
years, I dedicated myself strictly to theater.
Wow. That's
Old
awesome.
school way of doing things. Yeah, no, thank you.
That's a different world, huh?
Isn't
You know.
it?
Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so what came out of that was uh, a real supportive theater community
That's
in
awesome.
New York. And we've all grown. We've all been in the industry. Some, of course, some those who've stayed in it has been able to be in the industry. Then really doing wonderful things, right?
That's
So
wonderful.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's, do you
So
have like someone that you, I guess, would like say like um I wouldn't say model your career after someone who like someone you inspire, you're like, okay, that is the ideal like career.
yeah. So during my theater journey in New York, I became a member of the Actors Studio, and so I'm going to digress a little bit.
Okay.
While I was still trying to perfect my craft in the theater,
Uh-huh.
my first love was always film, always, right? And initially, it was harder to break into the industry, and most of the research I did was most people were talking about writing,
Mm.
creating your own projects. And I'm going, wait, I am an actor. My default naturally, that comes to me naturally, is acting.
Yeah.
What is this thing about writing, da da da? And so, even though I was loving theater, I was always trying to gear towards film. So then I once again started doing research. So I studied from, you won't believe it, from Stallone.
Ooh.
Yes. And yeah, he wrote First Blood,
Yeah.
the boxing one, what was it, the Rocky?
Rocky,
And he's a
yes.
writer. Forget, and yeah, we talk about his physicality, but he's a writer and he understands, when you study Stallone's work and how he was able to pave his own way. That
Yeah.
was wonderful. I studied Michael Douglas's work,
I love him.
one as not just as an actor, but how he got One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest made.
Yes.
He was a
So good.
producer. He won an Oscar for that. So that was another person that I studied. Also, coincidentally, my recent friend, before he was a star, Vin Diesel, part of the New York scene, and I knew him before, he was writing. He was a bouncer at Limelight. So I knew him. And we also, all of us in the neighborhood, once he made it, we're like, oh, so he also wrote his own way into where he is now. So there are
Nice.
many examples of actors or artists who've paved their own way, right?
Yes.
Another person that comes to mind is Billy Bob Thornton, who wrote that
Yeah.
piece about, what broke him out. That was one example. So I just studied writers. I listened to, because I wasn't a writer. I mean, I read for 10 years, kept
I
reading,
love.
because I had no idea, like, didn't come naturally. Let me say, happened that
Same
way.
for me.
Oh man, so I will keep reading. I listen to tons of writers, and one of my resources was the NPR. They have these. Uh, they have the Moth, which talks about storytelling. About, they put you up, they give you certain rules, and you can tell
Yeah.
us within that rule. And I'll listen over and over again. There was in the afternoon, there was what's her name? This older uh, NPR lady. She would invite in writers from all
Yes.
genres, from novels to playwrights to poets, and she would interview them. So then I gleaned, oh, okay, so this is the process. This is how you do it. But of course, once I got to, so I did that for 10 years, and then eventually I moved to LA.
Nice.
I said,
LA.
yeah, because that's where I always wanted to be. And I
Yeah.
think I had run my theater course. I had run it, and I said, okay, this is not time to go. And, so once I got here, I got involved in Bobby Moresco's class. Now, Bobby
Nice.
Moresco wrote Crash, and he won the Oscar for it. So he has a weekly writers. Well, it's actually a writing slash acting class,
Mm.
but it's overrun by writers. It's all writers who are trying to write.
That's
But
great.
there's, and then if you're an actor who has an audition,
Yeah.
you get a priority. But week in, week out, it's people and he encourages 8 to 10 pages a week.
Oh,
You come
nice.
in 8 to 10 pages a week, and then you distribute all the scenes to the actors. They get on
Nice.
stage and they read it, and you as the writer can hear it, and then
Mm.
you can make
I like.
adjustments. If you want feedback, if you get it, or if not, it's up to you. But at least the writer gets to hear what's in their head translated in action, and they can make adjustments and can
Yeah.
see what works and what doesn't work and so on. So that was invaluable,
Right.
and that really kind of set me up in really understanding how to write screenplays,
I love that.
right? So with the combination of all the knowledge I'd acquired over the years, plus now the skill set from how to structure an idea and have it have a main character translate those ideas, that
Right.
was it just opened me up.
I
And
love it.
I've been writing. I'm finishing a feature like the next few days.
All
I
right.
already have three already in the
Congratulations.
can. I'm writing because I have ideas, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful because uh, I have a well of ideas.
I love
The
that.
only thing I have to do is sit and write. That's it. Because sometimes I could be in the midst of my friend, and some, for instance, we'll be having a conversation and they'll say a line, and I'm like, interesting. Let me just jot it down here because I never
Yeah,
know when I might need it. So
absolutely.
I constantly keep observing, keep watching, keep listening to create ideas, to kind of feel what everyone else is. I'm an artist. I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah.
It's
I think
supposed
it's
to
my job.
be the barometer of society and of what's happening within and outside of us. And
Yeah.
so one of my favorite quotes by Nina Simone is that artists, and also from my past teachers and mentors, artists are supposed to be the mirror of society and to reflect back, right? Because without the
Right.
artist, you know, we won't be able to check or make a note of where society needs to be and where they're veering off. Hence, to bring it back to Black Lives Matter, I have written, I went for a few demonstrations. I have been an advocate. One of my part of my artistic journey is to be an advocate in my storytelling. It is not enough to just tell a story in some way, yes, I would like to make a living of it, but if I can't change a person's life, it's not enough for me.
Absolutely.
I mean, I observe, I walk. I mean, that's the whole point of me being an artist, to be honest. It's not enough for me to be as successful as my fellow man isn't.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to be impressed and mentored by people who are grander. They see bigger picture of humanity and what our potential can be.
Absolutely.
And storytelling is so powerful.
Oh yeah. So.
Anyway, maybe I'm going off too good. Anyway.
No, I love it. I love it.
Because I'm truly excited about it. I see the potential. I have dedicated all my life to it.
I love that. I love it. I think that's what you're right. That is our job. And if we're not, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We want to see change. And I think change happens. A lot of people believe that's why the industry is such a powerful tool. It's like people actually believe what they see. So I think if we can plant that seed in people's mind of like, I think it'll definitely push the needle forward of everything else. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you that I have a movie running through my head all the time.
Yeah.
No. It's funny, and that's the truth. The impression of film, I can certain behaviors that I still have or I've discarded over the years. I remember when I was really young, I think at some point I picked up a cigarette smoking habit. But what no one knows is that I had actually seen a film of a cowboy. I don't know if it was John Wayne or whatever. And there's a scene where he puts the cigarette. Oh, no, actually it was the Marlboro ad, actually. And it was back in the day, it used to be all over the place. And you see this rugged guy with the, it symbolizes macho, blah, 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 blah. And I can tell you that was how as a kid, I thought being cool or being a certain way from what I had seen dictated to me how I should behave.
Right.
So there lies in what we've said. Film is literally, it goes into the subconscious.
Right.
What we see. And a good one, you might see today, and 2 days down the line, 3 days, it resonates. You give them that film. There you go.
Yes.
What was it? And the other day I saw what do you call it? It's a new show on Netflix called. It's recent, literally. I can't remember the title, but I saw it 2-3 nights ago. And I'm under my sink just doing dishes. And all of a sudden saying, that film, what were they doing? This is 2-3 days after the fact.
Yeah.
So in there lies in really when an artist is doing a really good work, that goes beyond the subconscious.
Yeah.
You might see it consciously, but your subconscious picks it up in so many ways that it goes and has an imprint in your psychology or in your subconscious. And that's the medium we play in.
That's the medium.
Yeah.
That's it. I love this. I could talk to you all day. um, so I usually ask this question, and I mean, you pretty much answered it. I think it's like, if there's someone that wants to do what you do or to get into the industry, what advice would you give them? Um, yeah.
If they wanted to get into the industry, one, I would tell them to start wherever they are, right?
Hmm.
Initially, you can imagine me as an African guy coming here. Actually, I was a kid, and one thing I didn't know, I ended up in DC my first 4 years in the US. And while I was trying to figure myself out, I joined a community theater.
Hmm.
It didn't cost much. It didn't, every week we'll get together every weekend. Little theater company. I started there. And then the lady who was in charge of it says, Kofi, I think I mean, you should go to New York or at least LA or whatever. I know some few friends that she knew the owner of Central Casting in DC. She made some appointments for me. I went to talk to them. I was doing my research, what school to go to. I'm a big believer in going to drama school to work out
Yeah.
your kinks. If you're going to be whatever field you choose to be in, either as a director. Now, as a director, it's much easier, I think, because of
Oh yeah.
technology. Because of
Yes.
technology. Steven Spielberg said when he was a kid, this was, if you're part of one of his interviews, was that his parents gave him one of those old 8mm cameras.
Uh-huh.
He went around the backyard shooting stuff, and then he would show it to his the family, and they enjoy whatever. And from there, gradually, he moved on. So
Mhm.
I am a big believer in, first of all, learning the industry you want to be in, reading all about it. Like I said, when I wasn't a writer, I lived in a library. I literally lived in a library. I read and read and read. I just wanted to get the idea, And I read novels. I read everything. I read, my imagination is so wonderful that I can live in books.
I
So I
love
read
it.
because I also wanted to find I didn't know it, so I had to find a frame of reference. So
Mhm.
I learned that the same way as I did with acting. I joined a community group. Then I went to New York because I wanted to be a better actor, And so I'm a big believer in doing the research.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Hopefully, I'm a big believer also in getting a mentor,
Yes.
someone who has done it, is doing it at a higher level, and you can watch them. And one of
Yeah.
the things that's wonderful about watching someone is that you can formulate what not to do,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Because they're already doing what is right because they're
Right.
in that position. But then you can observe and learn. Okay, all right. When I'm in that position, this is. I don't think I want to do it this way. I want to do it. So what is funny is you start to recognize patterns
You're right.
and how it works. So it's always great and to be the observer and learn from that perspective, and just create what everything you learn you apply.
Yes. Don't
Right?
say it, apply it. Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
great, and also I know most people are always kind of cautious. What if it isn't good? What if well you are going to know how good it's going to be by doing it.
That's right.
And then you keep doing it because the next one will get better. You're like, oh, you know
Yes.
what? That shoot. Next time, I need more rehearsals with my acting,
Yeah.
right? Because my first one, that's what I learned. I'm like my first short. I'm like, oh, because later on I have all the footage. I'm like, next time I need like 5 days of rehearsal with my, you know. So you learn those things,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that philosophy applies on my next projects. I work
Yeah.
with my actors. I work with them. We kind of share ideas, blah, before we even get to shooting.
That's
So I want
good.
to pull as much out of them that I can, so that when I get on set, I'm only worrying about shots, blah. So the actors are kind of taken care of, and if they have a question, I already know what, because we have done the homework before getting on set. So
Right.
that's one of the things I learned, right? That I did not
Yeah.
have on my first. So
That's great. Thank you. No, this is great advice. I mean, a lot of people want to know how to. I mean, that's why I get a lot of people asking when they listen to some of the shows. They're like, "Man, this is such vital information," because they don't know and they're just
yeah,
starting out. So this is so great. Thank you
yeah.
so very
Thank
much.
you.
Any last words of wisdom before we go? We have 5 minutes before we go.
Art, to be a creator, is next to being God. Well, think about it. We are living in the creation of someone else. The only thing missing is, well, it's not missing, but we can only, how you see a painting and at the
Yeah.
very bottom right or wherever, the painter signs their name.
Hmm.
Well, the only way we can, um, God can sign his name is we, the creators, give thanks or be grateful. That is a signature, right? That's how I see it. So yeah, creating is, it may not seem like it when you're on it, because it's a solitary journey sometimes. As a writer, for instance, it's all about me and trying to create this. And sometimes, of course, when you're not when you don't have the support, the right support, doubt makes seep in. Things such as, is this really important, or da da da. But yeah, it is very important, because once you send it out there and it resonates with an audience, well, you already know it's the best feeling. It's the best feeling that a creator can have. So yeah, that's my advice.
Amazing. Love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My favorite interview yet. Thank you
Oh, thank you.
so very much for coming on.
It's been a
This was
pleasure.
a pleasure and an honor. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And everyone out there watching, remember to live, love, laugh. Until next time. Bye bye.
Salute.